the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, that we penetrate the cabinets.
I also want to reiterate how deeply sorry Canada is for the situation this put President Zelensky and the Ukrainian delegation in. It is extremely troubling to think that this egregious error is being politicized by Russia and its supporters to provide false propaganda about what Ukraine is fighting for.
Why does this government treat Alberta like a fart in the room that nobody wants to talk about or acknowledge?
I heard her say a word that I know is distinctly unparliamentary, and I think she may want to withdraw it. The word was F-A-R-T.
I mean, we love your Mr. Trudeau. I mean, his family's always been such big fans about that.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to episode 24 of the Maple Files. This is Monday, February 3rd, 2025. I'm your host, Snow Himbo, and this is my comrade Yeti Jesus here.
Coming to you live from the cabin I built.
Coming to you live from his Minecraft domain. How's everybody doing tonight? Hope y'all are doing well. In light of the insane news, today's episode obviously is going to be about the Canadian tariffs, Trump's tariffs on Canada, how it's going to affect you, what you can do about it, and what I personally think is behind it. Because it wouldn't be a show with me in it if it didn't have a bit of tinfoil.
That's fair.
Working class politics and tinfoil. That's the speed here.
I'm definitely not going to build my buildings with tinfoil on the walls at all, for sure.
Well, that's how you protect yourself from the 6G or whatever.
Yeah. It's like an earwig. It just goes in your ear all the time. You can't stop it. So
yeah, because that's what earwigs do. They definitely go in your ear. That's definitely not something that we all collectively believed as a kid. That doesn't happen. You know what I was thinking of also? What I was thinking of also? Why did all of us think Marilyn Manson took a rib out so we could like? Because we all believe that.
And everyone's
we all just talked about it to the point where, like, I read his biography and he was like, I never did that. And I don't know where it came from, but everybody just started saying it. And I'm like, yeah, man, we feel the same way. We don't know where it came from either. Just someone told us it and we believed it because we were stupid, impressionable kids.
Yep.
But I digress. Moving this down a little so my giant head does not keep colliding with the microphone. Okay. To summarize, for those of you who do not have your finger on the pulse, we're going to start from the beginning here. So as of the 1st, which is 2 days ago, the now President Donald Trump said, today I have implemented a 25% tariff on imports from Mexico and Canada, 10% on Canadian energy, and a 10% additional tariff on China. This was done through the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, because of the major threat of illegal aliens and deadly drugs killing our citizens, including fentanyl. We need to protect Americans, and it is my duty as president to ensure the safety of all. I made a promise on my campaign to stop the flood of illegal aliens and drugs from pouring across our borders, and Americans overwhelmingly voted in favor of it. So naturally, a good chunk of people are freaking out over this. which is.
Well, I mean, it's not good because it is going to cause some prices to rise. Which, and like, it's just a spat to like hide, I think, all the Americans' financial issues. And
That's entirely possible. So we have Trudeau's official response, which we'll get to right now.
Tonight, I am announcing Canada will be responding to the U.S. trade action with 25% tariffs against $155 billion worth of American goods. This will include immediate tariffs on $30 billion worth of goods as of Tuesday, followed by further tariffs on $125 billion worth of American products in 21 days' time to allow Canadian companies and supply chains to seek to find alternatives. Our response will also be far-reaching and include everyday items such as American beer, wine, and bourbon, fruits and fruit juices, including orange juice, along with vegetables, perfume, clothing, and shoes. It'll include major consumer products like household appliances, furniture, and sports equipment, and materials like lumber and plastics, along with much, much more. And as part of our response, we are considering, with the provinces and territories, several non-tariff measures, including some relating to critical minerals, energy, procurement, and other partnerships. We will stand strong for Canada. We will stand strong to ensure our countries continue to be the best neighbors in the world. I want to speak directly to Americans, our closest friends and neighbors. This is a choice that, yes, will harm Canadians, but beyond that, it will have real consequences for you, the American people. As I have consistently said, tariffs against Canada will put your jobs at risk, potentially shutting down American auto assembly plants and other manufacturing facilities. They will raise costs for you, including food at the grocery stores and gas at the pump. They will impede your access to an affordable supply of vital goods crucial for U.S. security, such as nickel, potash, uranium, steel, and aluminum. They will violate the free trade agreement that the President and I, along with our Mexican partner, negotiated and signed a few years ago. Together, we've built the most successful economic, military, and security partnership the world has ever seen. A relationship that has been the envy of the world. Yes, we've had our differences in the past, but we've always found a way to get past them. As I've said before, if President Trump wants to usher in a new golden age for the United States, the better path is to partner with Canada, not to punish us.
What?
That's the most Prime Minister I've ever heard him speak.
Huh?
That was the most Prime Minister-y speaking he's ever done in his life. He actually just sounded like a regular person talking for once.
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually like one of his better speeches, I feel. Especially addressing Americans. But yeah, so retaliatory tariffs going into effect. I'm not gonna lie, this feels suspiciously like a controlled demolition to me, economically at least, because
I think you're right.
he's announcing tariffs on Canada, he's announcing tariffs on Mexico, he's announcing additional tariffs on China, to which they're saying they're going to respond, which should terrify everyone given the relationship America has with China in terms of trade.
Well, and the thing is, China sells so much stuff. When they put economic sanctions on someone, you feel it.
Yeah, what if they decide to call them a debt? You're fucked.
And I think that's part of the reason China has been trying to like bring in actual physical gold. Same with Russia and a few other countries, where I think they're preparing for this kind of casualty.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels
I mean,
very
it will
much.
affect us as well, because our currency is somewhat tied into the American currency as well, and the G7 as a whole.
Well, my take is that it's really going to hurt Americans more because there's a higher likelihood that Canada is actually going to implement. They're already talking about doing like a pandemic style response in response to the tariffs. So Canada's on the book saying we're going to at least put some measures in, probably not adequate ones, but some measures in to take care of Canadians. So really the only people getting stiffed is the American worker. Because Trump's not going to he's not he's going to declare victory and that's it.
Okay, he's not going to do anything to help the actual workers that he's claiming to care about.
But then Americans are gonna, start going to the gas pump and the grocery store and start noticing everything's more expensive, and that's when it's gonna really hit them, where they're like, "Oh wait, this is the opposite of what I voted for,"
Yeah.
and that's when all the people on the left can say to them, "Oh, your first time? Is it your first time a politician did the opposite of what you wanted them to do?" Yeah.
Well, like you look at it, I wouldn't be surprised if America tries to invade Canada at some point.
Yeah.
I feel like we're starting to organize. Like, if you look back at World War II and stuff, like Japan was invading small little countries around them, building up to get like resources. I feel like we're starting to teeter along that idea a little too much for my liking, but
well, I find it interesting. What I find really interesting is the choices Trump is making when it comes to like taking over Canada, taking over Greenland, the stuff with Mexico, because it looks suspicious. Yeah, it looks suspiciously like the Club of Rome, which is a New World Order sort of thing, and it makes me wonder, like, what other explanation is there for him suddenly being like, I need Canada and Greenland? Like, what?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Like it is. They're just setting up. It's like playing a giant game of Risk, and they're setting up their bases and their artillery and all that stuff. And really, honestly, the best thing that can happen is we just go through another Cold War where nobody actually shoots anything off. I mean, I prefer nothing to happen, but I don't see that happening.
I have a feeling we're already in a Cold War, but against China. I think we're already there. I think we're already like, it just, the second you start doing tariffs because of like no other reason than like country bad, it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? This is like more Cuba shit. This is more USSR shit. Like, come on, guys.
Like, and it's fine to disagree with other countries, and that's perfectly fine, and have strong disagreements about how people are treated. But you can't talk about like country sovereignty and then in the same breath talk about invading someone.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I've never heard sovereignty brought up when it comes to America and their invasions.
Well, it's that's an American exceptionalism we always see on the world stage. But we do have an update. We have an update for you guys. Justin Trudeau. I just had a good call with President Trump. Canada is implementing this is funny. I'll get to this in a bit. Canada is implementing our $1.3 billion border plan, reinforcing the border with new choppers, technology, right, and personnel. Enhance coordination with our American partners and increase resources to stop the flow of fentanyl. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting the border. In addition, Canada is making new commitments to appoint a fentanyl czar. We will list cartels as terrorists, ensure 24/7 eyes on the border, launch a Canada-US joint strike force to combat organized crime, fentanyl, and money laundering. I have also signed a new intelligence directive on organized crime and fentanyl, and we will be backing it with $200 million. Proposed tariffs will be paused for at least 30 days while we work together.
Like,
So we might have
go ahead.
We might have a bit of a stay of execution.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's just I lost my train of thought. Damn it.
It's all good. So, like, as you can imagine, the MAGA narrative management the MAGA narrative management apparatus is declaring victory. Where is it? Oh my god, these fucking nerds post so much. Jesus Christ.
Oh, right, I don't even remember what I was going to say. I don't remember another time in history where there's been an issue with the Canadian and U.S. border, like people crossing and stuff. I feel like that's a bit of a...
Oh. Are we frozen? Am I frozen?
It might have been one of us. I don't know. I'm working now. Working 9 to 5.
So yeah. Uh-oh. There we go.
Hello again.
So libs of TikTok, breaking, Canada has caved. They will pause their proposed tariffs for 30 days and will implement a $1.3 billion border plan, which includes, and all the stuff Trudeau listed there. Which is kind of funny.
Do you think America just wants to keep Americans in the country now?
I think
like,
so.
Oh, there's going to be no escaping for you bastards.
But it's funny because this border plan was already going into effect back in December.
Okay.
Exact same price tag. Exact same everything. Which is hilarious because I believe Mexico had a similar thing where Claudia Sheinbaum essentially told Trump, like, oh yeah, we'll put like a bunch of like border agents, like we're gonna put them in, but she already had them there, so she just told him like, yeah, I did this thing just for you, but really it was just what they were doing. And this is the same thing from Trudeau too. This this isn't new. They were planning on doing this anyway, and apparently Trudeau just told Trump like, yeah, we're doing this for you. We're on it, buddy. There you go. And MAGA's declaring like supreme victory, and I'm just like, does your entire propaganda apparatus hinge on people like just being completely detached from reality? Is this how this all works? Do you guys like literally have
when they travel around? And I don't mean like all Americans, but you look at Americans like get upset when people don't speak English when they're in a non-English speaking country. Like it's insane that people would think that. Like I don't know. Like I didn't grow up in the States, but it's like you can see the just we're the best. Yeah, rah 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 all the time, no matter what.
Yep. But I do find it funny because it wasn't too long ago that Tesla, which is Elon Musk's company, asked Canada to reduce tariffs on its electric vehicles made in China. Because Trudeau announced a 100% surtax on all electric vehicles made in China and sold in Canada. Obviously, they did that because China was clapping our cheeks. But Tesla apparently requested that this get shut down. So it's kind of funny how they're all doing cartwheels and backflips now over the whole tariff thing when they didn't really like it too much.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there's really many manufacturing that could keep up with Tesla in the Western world. I don't know if we have the manufacturing to handle that much.
No, and that's the whole point. That's the whole problem. That's the whole problem with all of this. You need to have the manufacturing gumption in order to be able to, sustain yourself. And America absolutely does not.
No.
But I digress. We're going to move on here. Make them pay a price. Tesla threatened with 100% tariffs in Canada. We need to look through and say who is supporting Trump and how can we make them pay a price, Canada's Chrystia Freeland said. There's a famous quote from the movie Roadhouse that's useful for all sorts of situations. Be nice until it's time to not be nice. The people of Canada, by and large, are famous the world over for being very nice. But clearly, the current tariff situation in the US has some of them getting ready to not be nice. And at least one top politician in Canada is prepared to go directly after Tesla as a result. In an interview with the Canadian press, the country's Liberal Party leadership candidate, Chrystia Freeland, candidate at the time, suggested 100% tariffs be applied to a number of U.S. source goods in response to President Trump's threatened tariffs on Canadian and Mexican imports. Freeland said those could include wine, beer, and all Teslas specifically. And yes, this is because of Tesla CEO's financial and operational support of Trump, Freeland said. We need to be very targeted, very surgical, very precise, Freeland told the news outlet. We need to look through and say who is supporting Trump and how can we make them pay a price for a tariff attack on Canada. Tesla's EVs sold in Canada are made in the US as well as China. Canadian tariffs would then raise their prices in that country, leading EV buyers to turn to other automakers instead. Freeland added, one of the characteristics of the Trump administration is they like to traffic in uncertainty, she said. There are lots of reports about there being internal debates in the US administration. So let's use that to our advantage. Let's put some cards on the table and be very clear that if they hit us, we will hit them back. And we do have some additional news. Not a great week for Musk. Ford pauses retaliatory tariffs to measures to U.S. tariffs after Trump delays them by 30 days. Ontario Premier Doug Ford is pausing all retaliatory measures in response to U.S. tariffs after President Donald Trump chose to delay imposing them on all Canadian imports for 30 days. That pause includes Ford's promise to rip up Ontario's nearly $100 million contract with Elon Musk's Starlink. On Sunday, Ford ordered the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, LCBO, to strip its shelves of American products in response to the tariffs, which were supposed to start Tuesday. If President Trump proceeds with tariffs, we won't hesitate to remove American products off LCBO shelves or ban American companies from provincial procurement, Ford said in a statement late Monday afternoon. Earlier in the day, Ontario PCs had announced a suite of measures to help Ontarians impacted by the tariffs, including a 6-month deferral of provincial taxes for Ontario businesses, amounting to roughly $10 billion in cash flow support. They had also promised that Ontario would not allow U.S. companies to bid on provincial contracts until the tariffs were lifted. Hours before the tariffs were set to begin, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Monday Trump will hold off on levying tariffs on Canada for at least 30 days after Canada made a series of commitments to improve security across the border. Before the tariffs were temporarily paused, Ford said Musk is part of the Trump team that wants to destroy families' incomes, destroy businesses, at a news conference in Etobicoke on Monday. He wants to take food off the table of people, hardworking people, and I'm not going to tolerate it. Musk, an advisor to Trump, is overseeing the U.S. Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, LOL, in cooperation with the president's administration. Musk responded to Ford's announcement on X, formerly Twitter, a platform that he owns, before Ford reversed his decision to rip up the Starlink deal. Oh well, he wrote. The Starlink contract, signed in November, is meant to provide high-speed internet access through the company's satellite service to 15,000 eligible homes and businesses in rural, remote, and northern communities by June of this year.
That's actually really needed in Ontario. There's a
Oh, yeah,
lot
it
of
is.
dead. I just want to take a second to point out that the comments Lucy's been making are incredibly on point. Also, hi Lucy, I haven't seen you forever. Blue Moon Red Wine.
Always good to see Lucy. The Bitcoin bros are also obsessed with Kennedy, and Bukala is big on Bitcoin, and he's a big time wall kisser. Yeah. Yep. So, I next want to go to PP's statement on the matter. It's PP time. Who's ready for PP time? It's everybody's favorite Goy from the prairies, as he names himself. Because that's just a normal thing that people who aren't owned by Israel do.
Borders. They are the protective arms wrapped around our people and our land to stop foreign threats and protect against enemies. They mark our place and stake out our ground as a people and country. But in 9 years, the NDP Liberals have lost control of our borders, letting drugs, guns, and terrorists threaten our people. Part is incompetence, part is the radical Liberal agenda. A borderless, globalist, post-national agenda. Post-national is the word that Justin Trudeau used. All of this done with the advice and support of his top economic advisor, Mark Carney, who calls himself a European. And here are the facts. Fact, after 9 years of Liberals, gun-related crime is up 116%, with the Toronto Police Association saying that 85% of gun offenses use illegal firearms from the United States. Fact, the Liberal government only inspects 1% of shipping containers coming into our country, allowing drugs and guns to sneak through the other 99%. Fact, the Liberals let multiple ISIS terrorists enter into Canada, including a man who was allegedly filmed cutting up a human body on a crucifix in the Middle East. The same man is now charged for planning a terrorist attack in Canada. Fact, the Liberal government admits it has lost count of the number of people who are here illegally. But they say in one of their own reports that it's somewhere between 20,000 and 500,000. But they say it could be more. How reassuring. And then there are the drug deaths. 49,000 Canadians have lost their lives to opioid overdoses in the last 9 years. More than died fighting for Canada in the Second World War. Can you imagine that? That was a war, and it killed fewer people than have died in Canada to opioids under this Liberal government. Opioid deaths are up over 200%. The radical drug liberalization, whereby the NDP Liberals legalized the use of fentanyl in Canada, has been yet another deadly experiment. Most of the ingredients come from China and Mexico, and yet our government cannot stop them at the border. Fact, Canadian security services identified 350 organized crime rings operating within our border. 63 of these groups have international connections to China. Walls of containers and vehicles to spot drugs, guns, and stolen cars. 5, build border surveillance towers that we can deploy on and use to scan the landscape and detect incursions. Also, deploy truck-mounted drone systems that can spot incursions from the sky. 6, track departures. We should keep track of who's leaving.
Is this starting to click in for anybody else yet? Just based on that rhetoric. Because that sounds suspiciously like a proposal to create a surveillance state.
Yep. Oh, we gotta get those drones in the air, keep our borders safe from all those Americans.
This is the angle I think kind of wraps all of this tariff insanity together.
Okay.
This is what I think's behind all this. Because here's the thing. You can believe one of two things. You can believe that Trump's just a dumbass and just a wacky guy who is just doing crazy stuff, and he's kind of like just a bull in the china shop and runs around, and he's like a chimpanzee. He's just flinging shit all over the place, and we got to clean up the shit. We had to send Trudeau to clean up his shit. He's flinging more shit, and there's too much shit, and it's covering everything, and all of a sudden it's just, I got carried away. But you can believe that he's just nuts and doing this like for whatever. And if you look up any of the stats or any of the anything on any of this, when it comes to fentanyl, when it comes to immigration from Canada into America, none of the actual statistics make any fucking sense whatsoever. It does make sense if you introduce some kind of crisis, which has happened before in the West. If you introduce some kind of crisis and use it as an excuse to implement control apparatuses and surveillance that previously was not a thing. Now, if we're all thinking of the same event and the same act that was a result of that event, congratulations. Because that's what this fucking is, in my opinion. I think the ruling elite are working together to essentially create, I've said it, boldly. I think Trump's here to usher in like the New World Order. I think he's here to literally usher in, like, you will own nothing, be happy, and be orange. That's what I think. And I think it's brilliant because he can usher in so much shit that his base would otherwise be against, that they're going to be for, just because it's Zion Dawn doing it. And I think this is part of it. Because, like, why mention this? Why bring this up? Why start talking about like surveillance technology and scanning people going in and out? And we're going to have drones going all over the place and monitoring citizens. The whole tariff thing is to scare people into accepting what is rapidly going to devolve into a digital prison. That is my personal opinion as to what all of this is actually about. Because it can't just be about a fake problem and Trump's just being a wacky, wild and crazy guy.
Yeah.
No, he can't just be doing a wacky dude thing and there's nothing more to it. That's not how the ruling class operates, and that's most certainly not how Donald Trump operates. He is connected with extremely powerful people. And I've said it from day one. The threat of Trump is never Trump himself. The threat of Trump is never Trump himself. The threat of Trump is whoever is in Trump's ear. Whoever Trump is attached to. That's the threat. I'll give you an example. Donald Trump said recently that it's a bad thing how small Israel is. Now, this is the same Donald Trump who just kind of, received like $100 million from Miriam Adelson. He was a massive Zionist and Israel enjoyer. He also received money from AIPAC, the well-known Israel lobby. And then magically, all of a sudden, we're kind of signaling towards the greater Israel shit a little bit. So that's kind of how this works. And if you look at all these tech bros, you look at all these connections to billionaires, starts to become a little clear that the people who have Trump's ear, they're clearly working together. And a lot of the same people who have Trump's ear also have Pierre Poilievre's ear. They also have, yes, Justin Trudeau's ear. These people are working. I keep
Both
saying
sides,
it. Yeah, I don't mean to be a tanky for a second, but I have to be because I am one. But we live under a dictatorship of capital. Whenever you're confused about a thing, try and think like a billionaire. Try and ask yourself, WWBD, what would the bourgeoisie do? And if I were the bourgeoisie, at a time where people are gaining class consciousness, deeply unhappy with the economy, and rapidly disproving the pro-capitalist propaganda that we easily shoveled into boomer heads, I'd be thinking about ways to clamp them down. I would be thinking about ways to. Yet he's just going to be RB. I would be thinking about ways.
I don't know if I'm going to be BRB, to be honest. I might have to go leave.
It's all good, man. No, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you sticking it out. Yeah, Yeti's come down with a Yeti virus. So
yeah, my wife got me sick. Blame her and Canada.
Thanks, Miss Yeti and Canada and Trump and PP. I'm gonna blame PP. I'm just gonna say thanks, PP.
All right, thank you so much, man. I'll see you tomorrow or another day.
Yep. Feel better, buddy. Now you're just stuck with my pretty face. Anyway, you can't enact all of the. Oh fuck! I forgot the music. I am just shitting and farting. Whoa, that's too loud. Let's dial that a little bit. There we go. I digress. You cannot have your dystopia without specific measures to suppress the proletariat. And that's what all this, in my opinion, is about. They want to implement a digital prison, a control apparatus that ensures that there cannot be a working class revolution. That cannot be a mechanism with which we unseat them from power. And the only way they do that is have sufficient control so that they can suppress the population. That's it. Anyway, let's continue with PP.
So that we know which deportees are still in our country. As I said at the outset, the government amazingly doesn't know how many people are here illegally. How are we supposed to protect our borders when there could be over 500,000 people inside those borders illegally, according to the government's own admissions? We will pay for the Canada First border plan by scrapping the Liberal gun buyback and cutting bureaucracy. The gun buyback, actually I should call it the gun grab, has been completely ineffective. They've spent $60 million, and they admit it has not recovered a single gun. Meanwhile, even if they did get guns from this plan, according to the supporters of gun control, the main lobby group supporting gun control, the people who give their guns in would just take the payment they receive to buy other guns that are very similar in nature. Finally, the gun buyback targets licensed, law-abiding, trained and tested hunters, off-duty police officers, and other highly trained professionals who are of no risk. Obviously, no criminal is going to participate in a gun grab with the government. It will only be law-abiding people. The police do not support this gun grab. In fact, they say that 85% of guns used in crime in Toronto are illegal guns that come in through the border. So let's stop the gangsters and gun smugglers. I want to protect Canadians from criminals. Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney want to protect turkeys from hunters. We're also going to cut billions of dollars in pricey consultants and phase out thousands of back-office bureaucratic jobs through attrition. Less bureaucracy and waste, more boots.
See what angle they're taking here. Listen to what angle they're taking here. Excuse me. So he pivots from all the scary surveillance shit. He pivots real quick to talking about guns. And he seems to care about gun safety. And, seems to be against gun control. But what he's actually talking about is preventing guns from entering Canada, right? Now, I feel like this is to create an illusion that what he's really pushing for here isn't some kind of dystopian hellscape, because everybody thinks about taking the guns, disarming the workers. But he's not really saying anything that would prevent that from happening. Additionally, if you manufacture consent for an army of drones roving the country, what's a rifle going to do? Also, the level with which he refers to cops, it's very clear who he wants to have the guns. And it is the arm of the state and indirectly the arm of capital, the police.
On the ground and more drones, choppers, and surveillance in the sky. We'll let lawful people and goods come in. We'll keep drugs, terrorists, and other threats out. And we'll save trade with the United States. But it's funny, here we are trying to save our trade with another country while we can't even trade with ourselves. And that's why earlier this morning, I announced a Canada First plan to bring free trade between our provinces, allow our truckers and our entrepreneurs to move goods and services affordably to our people, something that could boost average family income by $6,000 a year and reduce our helpless dependence on the United States. Isn't it incredible that after 9 years of Liberals, it's either easier for criminals to bring drugs and guns illegally over?
Now, if you're thinking to yourself, how the hell would we get this done? The reason why I've been sounding the alarm about all this shit for as long as I have is the rhetoric surrounding illegal immigrants, these illegals. You're hearing PP talk about it nonstop. You're hearing Trump talk about it nonstop. All the rhetoric surrounding illegal immigrants. You have to ask yourself, how can they actually fix this problem? Especially when he's talking about, like, we don't even know how many people are in here. Well, the only realistic proposition, the only solution to this problem that they have created, and let's be honest, this is a creation. They have all fabricated this problem. The problem are not random immigrants who are trying to find a better life, or in most cases, escaping the hell of Western imperialism that came to their own country, which is why they're at our door to begin with. And yes, that is backed by Canada as well. The only solution to this problem is some form of digital ID. Because how else can you determine, how else can you get data sets of how many law-abiding, registered Canadian citizens there are versus people who are there illegally? How else are you going to do it? Are you going to hire like an army of like border people that are just going to sweep the country? He's already talking about drones. What are the drones going to do? They need some kind of identifier. And so what you're seeing is you are seeing a manufacturing of consent for some kind of initiative that is going to confirm or ensure, rather, that every Canadian is accounted for. And you can bet your ass that Donald Trump has got a similar thing cooked up for America. So that's just my take. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Every time I give out a take, I hope I'm wrong. Just so you guys know. Every single time I'm like, this is probably going to happen. I'm like, please, just, I will happily take all the L's if I'm just off base here. But the language surrounding solving this problem, that again is just made up. The language surrounding this issue that they fabricated is too specific, in my opinion. It is far too specific. Also, not for nothing, but we don't really have a great track record. You know, Canadian banks were already playing around with the idea of central digital currency. Now we're floating advanced surveillance. And I think they're going to use it as a guise. You know, oh, we've got to do it for the border. Look, do you guys want a country that doesn't have scary illegals in it? Well, you got to opt into the digital ID then. It's okay. We'll call it the common sense card. This asshole would absolutely do something like, it's the common sense card. I guarantee you he would call it the common sense card. It would be some goofy bullshit like that. That your boomer uncle would be like, that's brilliant. But I digress. There is a big push, however, to there is a big push to purchase Canadian goods if you are here in Canada. So I do want to point out a site. This is madeinca.ca, and it's kind of cool. Basically, what it does is it shows you, it provides like a database for buying pretty much anything and making sure it's Canadian. So let's say I'm in Ontario. I want to buy a Canadian. I want to buy Canadian meat. It'll give you a whole list of Ontario meat retailers. Or let's say I need some home furniture and I'm in British Columbia. What do you got for me? Look at that. A whole bunch of Canadian retailers. So if you are in Canada, they even have a Made in Canada grocery guide, which is really cool. Because essentially what the grocery guide does is, when the next time you go to a grocery store in Canada, what you can do is you can use this guide to determine what food products are made here versus what food products are made in America. Which is pretty neat. Ripe bone broths, vegan broths, organic bone broths. I just started drinking bone broth in the morning, by the way. If you guys haven't tried that, give it a shot. I've had like GI issues for like 3 months now, and since I started drinking bone broth, they like completely vanished. Just real good shit. And I don't mean like the Alex Jones meme. But I digress. So that's kind of my take. If you are here in Canada and you are looking for Canadian alternatives, please check out that site. We're already kind of feeling the effects up here in Canada of the tariff madness. A bit of bad news for me. I was really excited about a role in my company that opened up that I feel would actually enable me to fix a lot of the problems in the company, of which there are many. And hopefully make like life a lot easier for a lot of my coworkers. It was announced today, actually, that we're going to be going through a hiring freeze. So that role is on hold, with the language from HR basically being, we will be in touch if or when the position becomes available again. Essentially meaning it's gone for now, but it might come back. I've heard from a lot of Americans, American employees too, that their companies are going through similar hiring freezes. And I'm going to be honest, what usually follows a hiring freeze is layoffs. So that's something everybody at our company is kind of concerned about also. Because it's obviously going to have considerable effects. If all this tariff shit pops off, if it actually materializes, it's going to have devastating effects. And the other prediction I have is if all the tariff shit does pop off, and this results in some kind of economic catastrophe, not just for Canada, but for America as well, because the American working class is going to get absolutely blown the fuck out if these tariffs happen. If these tariffs become a thing, the MAGA crowd are going to find out real quick just how much they rely on Canada for goods, which is quite a bit. Just go look it up. Our company is already doing massive layoffs and purging civil services. Yeah. In addition to that, I've noticed I've never received more emails in my life from other companies I've applied to saying that the job position is either no longer available or put on hold. It's not just my company. It's like across the board. Although I did joke it might be like a blessing in disguise because they have to tell all the external applicants to these roles as well that it's on hold. So maybe everyone will just forget about the positions and I'll just be right there like, hey, I'm still here. You want to promote me? I don't know. I'm going to be honest. The way this country is run, this company rather is run, I would much rather just get out, get a job somewhere else. The compensation sucks. They don't know what they're doing. There's so many problems that I don't even know how they're going to fix it. It's a bad mix. But I would like to be in a position where I can at least go down with a ship and say I tried. I tried to make my fellow working class people's lives better and I failed. I see that as better than running away. Maybe I'm just a wimp. But I digress. So that's basically where we're at with the tariffs. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen after a month. Trump could just decide, Trump's bosses could decide, you know what? We don't think this border response is sufficient enough. So we're just going to kind of do the tariffs anyway. That could happen. We know there's some kind of controlled demolition of the economy coming. There's already been a controlled demolition of the economy for a while now. Which, in my opinion, is a really ideal way of getting everybody on central banking digital currencies. But who knows? They might be leading with the digital ID. Because I'll tell you one thing. I don't know how you get this ideal, we can have eyes on all of the crazy immigrants. I don't know how you solve that manufactured problem without some form of digital ID. Maybe you need a digital ID to make purchases. Maybe you need it to have a bank. Maybe you need it for employment. Right? And that's how you get around the illegal immigrant crisis, which really isn't a crisis. It's not a crisis. This isn't actually a problem. But you guys are smart. You know this is actually not a problem. It's just a dopey dystopian power grab, in my opinion. Lucy, I know. I know it's about the digital ID. I know. There's no other explanation. That it's Occam's razor, right? The simplest solution, the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. Also, think about all the shit they got popping off during COVID. They installed these processes and these apparatuses around the passports. They still have those. They didn't go away. Now they're just here. So what do you think that's going to cause? Troubling times. So we'll see. I feel like the digital ID thing is probably first and foremost. I think the central bank digital currency comes after. Because one way or another, I feel like the economy is going to tank. And once that happens, they'll be ready to roll those right out. Anyway, that's our show for tonight. Please be sure to follow the Maple Files on YouTube. I have some really exciting news to drop probably later this month. But it's a new project I've been working on with some old friends, if you will, and it's going to be pretty fucking dope. But this was episode 24 of the Maple Files. Also, be sure to follow INN if you'd like to follow me. I am at Snowhimbo pretty much everywhere. YouTube, Twitter, all the stuff. Blue Sky. And yeah. I will see everybody Thursday for Snowhimbo streams. Probably going to be a pretty fiery episode given how much could happen between now and Thursday. So be sure to tune into that as well. But regardless, I hope everybody has a beautiful night. And I'll talk to you all real soon.